This is the Asus Zenbook UX303. This is the latest Skylake version, and this model we have here, which is the UX303UB, has the Core i7 GeForce 940M inside as well, so it's got a discrete graphics card. I'll give you some interesting and good information on gaming on this one. We've got a 0.5 terabyte SSD inside as well, 8 gigs of RAM, not 16, that would have been nicer, but it's an 8 gigs RAM model. Good screen, some heat, which we'll talk about later in the video, and also give you some details on performance testing we've done, noise testing, and details on keyboard, and of course screen accuracy, screen brightness as well. But I think you're going to like this if you're into something like the Dell XPS 13 with the full HD matte display, or the UX305, which is also a similar device with the Broadwell version of that, and even the Surface Pro 4 as well. Comes in at that same sort of price point and the same sort of quality. This scored 85% in our review, and I'm going to give you some more details in this video. Don't forget to like the video if you get something from it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos in this series. You'll get notifications, and stay tuned for the UX303UB. So as I said, a 1.45 kilo Ultrabook, nice build, a nice casing on it. Let me just talk you through some of the specifications. Intel Core i7, we've got the 6500U inside, and the NVIDIA GeForce 940M, as I mentioned. 8 gigs of RAM and a 30.3-inch Full HD matte panel. We've got a 0.5 terabyte Micron SSD inside. Note that there's 3 USB 3 ports, an HDMI and a display port. You've got a full SD card slot, and I want to point out that there's AC Wi-Fi support inside. 50 watt-hour battery should give us some good battery life reports. I'll give you the details later in this video about our battery life tests. But first of all, let's just look around the device and talk a little bit about the keyboard and the screen. So the keyboard is full size, backlit, and it feels quite nice. We can also say that the touchpad is quite good. We're using it in Internet Explorer here, and certainly scrolling and gestures seem to be absolutely fine, no problems there. It's actually the same as the previous model of the UX303, so nothing has changed. Obviously, don't change a winning formula, Asus. Now, let's talk about that screen in a minute, and I also want to show you, if I can, I'm going to take the back off this. So we'll have a look on the underside and see. I'll give you a little look inside. It's always fun to see what's going on inside, give us an idea about the engineering quality of this. But first, look around the ports, and as you can see, 2 USB 3 ports and a full-size SD card slot. So immediately, if you're a video creator, this is obviously helping you to get your video content in, and that GT 940M is going to really help with processing your videos. HDMI out, another USB 3 port, and there's the display port as well. So you really can have a 3-head laptop here just by plugging in 2 monitors. There's nothing else. You've got on the underside just that plain bottom there, which I'm going to try and take off in a minute if I've got the right tools with me. That looks like a Torx screwdriver set, so maybe I'll just have to put the pictures up on the screen for that. But I do notice, as I use this, there seems to be a little bit of a problem with our screen. I'm not sure if we've got a demo model here that is broken, or whether there's a graphics driver issue there, but we certainly are seeing a few graphics driver problems on that screen. While that reboots, I just want to show you get a basic case with it. It's canvasy type material, nothing special, but that's always useful, and I actually prefer the smaller, lighter cases just for good protection, scratch protection. You also get, as you'll note, we didn't have a gigabit Ethernet port on this, a gigabit Ethernet adapter, USB, probably a USB 2, USB 3, gigabit Ethernet adapter, and good old VGA as well. So you can pop that into the display port, and you'll get VGA out as well. So that's useful for presentations on projectors and stuff where the only connectivity that's supplied is VGA. Now let's talk about the screen. It's a full HD matte, so it's not glossy, IPS screen, and it's quite nice. Maximum brightness in the middle is a very good 385 nits sorry, maximum is 430, but in the middle we measured 385 nits on that, which is a nice score. Now let's take a look at some of the color accuracy reports that we got from our test. You'll see a black level of 0.41, which is not extremely black, but it gives a contrast of 939 because of that high brightness. Colors, pretty good, 3.84 for the color checker and 3.79 for the grays. The lower number, the better, and if you're reaching 2 on that test, it's an excellent screen. Anything below 5 is good, so that's a good screen there. If you look at the comparable UX303, also an IPS screen, that's slightly better at 3.09 and 2.4 deltas. Color space coverage is 60%. And if you want to do some comparisons, just take a look at that table. You'll see the XPS 13 in there, the Surface Book Core as well, and the Spectra 13 401NG also really coming into the same bracket. Now let's talk about performance. Let's start with the CPU performance. Skylake versus the previous generation Broadwell, not that much difference really in CPU, pure CPU power. A lot of the differences come with power saving and the GPU. So when we look at these results here, 279 is about, well, the 8% faster than the UX303LB of last year. If you look at the 305LA with the Broadwell CPU in, that was slightly faster in this Cinebench R15 multi 64-bit test. PC Mark 8, let's look at the creative score, because that's really where this device fits in quite nicely. 4,042 points on that creative score. A comparison there, PC Mark 8 on the home score accelerated V2 shows that 3,200 points is not class leading, but it's definitely up there. Only the MacBook Air really beating it with any significant value. And if you look at last year's UX303LN, also with the GeForce inside, and there's a good 8-9% difference advantage on the new UX303. Now if you're doing video work, you need storage, and 128 gig SSD, take it from me, doesn't cut it really if you're doing HD work. Now this has a 0.5 terabyte SSD in, and it's a Micron. I'm going to give you some of the performance scores for that right now. Crystal Disk Mark. Now let's just have a look at that sequential read speed of 484.2 megabytes per second. That's an excellent sequential read speed. And the 4K write speed, I'd like to highlight that as well, because that's an excellent 90 megabytes per second. So the SSD inside the UX303 looking pretty good here. Let's take a look at the graphics now and gaming performance as well. I'll put up some gaming results after this. I'm looking at 3D Mark 11 scores, comparing it down with a number. You'll see that on the screen now. We've got 2,488 points on our 1280 by 720 performance test there. Obviously, that is coming head to head with the UX303LB, which also has the GeForce 940M in it. Let's take a look at the UX305. So that is using Intel built-in graphics, and we've got double the performance to the Broadwell-based UX305. So that is a similar device, but you're not getting that graphics performance that you're able to get in this version. Dell XPS 13, the i7 model QHD, again only 1,556 points. So this 303 really moving ahead because of that discrete graphics performance, graphics card. There's a good selection of gaming tests there for you, and they start with Tomb Raider minimum settings 124.4 frames per second and go all the way down to 4.4 frames a second, Anno 2205 in max settings. So you're not going to get max settings out of this, but certainly for some games high settings will be possible. Middle settings possible for a lot of the games. Minimum settings pretty possible for pretty much every game we tested there. So gaming performance, good. Now what we need to talk about is the battery life under that load, the noise and the heat. So let's get right onto that right now. You'll see a couple of pictures of the internals here, including the fan. So obviously a fan here, and I want to tell you that the maximum noise that this generates is about 38.2 dBA under load. So that's getting close to this sort of 40 dB cutoff point, which you could call noisy. 38.2, not too bad, but it is definitely something you can hear. The question is Asus letting this get hotter to give you more performance over time? Well, we've done temperature load tests on this, and you'll see now that the highest temperatures in the middle, on the top middle of the keyboard there, are quite high at 56.6 degrees. So under that load test we did see some throttling on the CPU. Really it looks like that Asus have reached the thermal limits on this design, and that yeah, the higher turbo boost is obviously causing a little bit more heat, because that heat is a little bit more than the previous generation. Now let's get on to battery life. This is a 50 watt-hour battery inside this, and we're seeing battery life figures up on the screen there for you. Surfing over Wi-Fi with 150 nits, that's a low average brightness suitable for an indoor usage, up to 7 hours there. Now remember, you've got the discrete graphics card in here, taking a little bit more power than maybe a standard Ultrabook platform would without that discrete graphics card. Big Buck Bunny H.264 1080p playback, 6 hours 53 minutes. Not too bad on those battery figures, but they don't reach, for example, the battery life figures that we've seen on the Dell XPS 13 Full HD version. There may be some things you can do to clean up this device. Certainly we've had experiences of cleaning up devices and getting a lot better battery life. So maybe removing some of the background programs, McAfee for example, and any of the sort of Asus things that run in the background, that might help to keep battery life extended as far as possible. So a rundown of the pros and cons for you then. We have a bright, good contrast screen. It's IPS and the colours seem to be fairly accurate. The device works mostly fairly quietly. Under load we saw 48 dBA I think it was, which is a noticeable noise under load, but certainly for the duration of this video it's been absolutely silent. Good keyboards of course in this, and a mouse touchpad also pretty good as well. That SSD, 512 gigs is a generous capacity, and it seems to be performing very well across our tests. Battery life, good, not the best, but good battery life figures there. And unfortunately I couldn't get the back off to show you, but you can take the back off and upgrade RAM and access the SSD as well. On the contra side of things, the processor does downclock under load. We can hear a little bit of electronic, maybe coil noise inside in some situations, and we did notice that pulse width modulation is being used to adjust brightness, so some of you may be able to detect that. It is quite a low frequency PWM figure, so check out the full review for details and measurement on that PWM figure in terms of hertz. So it really does feel like this is another one of those good laptops that have been coming out recently. This quarter has seen a number of them: the Dell XPS 13, the Asus UX305HA with Broadwell, and this the UX303UB at the 1,000 to 1,250 euro mark. This is 1,250 euros, but you're getting that discrete GPU and that generously sized SSD as well. We've scored the Asus UX303UB at 85%. Go to the review and you'll see a breakdown of that score and where it fits into various categories like display, like graphics performance, like CPU performance, and you'll be able to work out what you want out of your laptop and whether it fits nicely. So for example, if you're not worried about that noise under load, some people aren't. If they're, for example, rendering videos, they're walking away, and it doesn't really matter to them. If you're gaming, on the other hand, that might affect you, unless you've got your headphones on, so it might not affect you. So go and check out the detailed breakdown and you'll be able to see if it fits your requirements. The Asus UX303UB. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you get something out of these videos, please, a thumbs up, always helpful for us. And we'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review.